In the Bhagavad Gita, 18th chapter, Krishna also states that one who is engaged in Krishna consciousness preaching is very dear to him. How so? Because as the gopis face so many impediments and obstacles to meet Krishna and get out from their homes, a preacher has to face many difficulties and obstacles and impediments in his struggle to preach pure Krishna consciousness. The gopis had so many impediments and obstacles in their struggle to get out of the house to preach pure Krishna consciousness, which means to love Krishna. Preaching means to share love of Krishna, to experience love of Krishna. So they want to preach by experiencing love of Krishna and sharing their love with Krishna. You can very clearly see Prabhupada's, his Tanmayatam. You can very clearly see in this purport Srila Prabhupada's Tanmayatam with the lilas of Krishna and the gopis. Sometimes the preachers, like the gopis, have to suffer bodily injuries. Their husbands are standing with sticks, Jiva Goswami says, ready to beat them and they bolted the doors and locked them in the rooms. You can't go out! Stay in your room, you try to get out, I'll break your bones with this lati. Danda. Sometimes the devotee preaching have to suffer bodily injuries. They get punched, they break their arm, they get kicked. I know, myself. And sometimes the preacher has to meet death also. All of this is taken as a great austerity on behalf of Krishna. The gopis suffered in separation. Tivra tap. They burn, their minds are burning, their hearts are burning. That's suffering. Devotees suffer. That's an austerity. Krishna therefore has said that such a preacher is very, very dear to him. If Krishna's enemies, like Shishupal and Kans, can expect salvation simply by concentrating their minds on Krishna, then what to speak of persons that are so dear to Krishna, like the gopis and the preachers? What is the conclusion? The conclusion is that yanti, hari yanti, hari dham yanti, attaining or achieving the dham. There's Devi dham, Hari dham, like this. Attaining Sridham Vrindavan, Prabhupada says, the conclusion is that the salvation of those who are preaching Krishna consciousness in this world is guaranteed in all circumstances. But such preachers never care for liberation, because factually, one who is engaged in preaching Krishna consciousness, bhakti, has already achieved liberation. So this is, Prabhupada is explaining that the gopis became liberated by approaching Krishna with lust, and the preachers that are preaching Krishna consciousness, they are guaranteed a liberation. Just to step back to, because Prabhupada is pointing us towards the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and about preachers and seeing the correlation between preachers and their intimacy with Krishna and the sadhana siddha gopis and their intimacy with Krishna. Because oftentimes the preachers of Krishna consciousness are also sadhana siddha gopis. Apakwa and pakwa. Kacha and paka, ripe and unripe. So externally in one sadhaka roop, he's preaching. Seva sadhaka rupena, sirupena chatre. He's a pracharak, he's preaching Bhagavad Gita class, Bhagavatam, Harinam, etc. Cultivation, counseling, questions, answers, internet preaching, chat, this, that, letters, so many things that preachers do. Exhibitions, dioramas, Rathayatra, Utsavas, festivals, Janmastamis, outreach, book printing, writing articles, it's unlimited. But then there's the inner life, the secret inner life of the pracharak. As they say in Hindi, preaching is the belching of eating. So much bhajan, so many astakams and stotrams and memorizing shlokas and studying all these tattvas and Bhagavad tattva and nam tattva and jap. And that's bhajan, nirjan bhajan, inner development, inner life.